The English Baroque was primarily a modification of ideas from France and the Netherlands. This was true for a number of reasons. Most of the leading English Baroque architects had not traveled in Italy. Premier among these Baroque architects were Sir Christopher Wren, Sir John Vanbrugh, William Tallman, Thomas Archer, and Nicholas Hawksmoor. Their knowledge of design trends was gleaned from books and engravings, many of them French, which could be obtained in London or on visits to Paris. In addition, Charles II and his court, along with other noblemen, had spent their years in exile in France and Holland and had observed firsthand the Baroque decorative schemes of these countries. They were modified to suit the taste and conditions of England. The long reign of Elizabeth I was followed by the monarchy of Charles II. Charles II ruled from 1660 to 1689. His time period was known as the English Restoration. Charles II was also cousin to Louis XIV of France. And as his cousin, Charles was able to see firsthand the splendors of Versailles and endeavored to bring the same lavishness and extravaganza to England. The Great Fire, which destroyed a large part of London, occurred during the reign of Charles II. This disaster gave impetus to the construction of new homes, public buildings, and churches. Sir Christopher Wren, the architect, became the leading influence in the artistic life of the period. Wren was strongly influenced by the Italian architect Palladio. In reconstructing London, wall thickness, floor height, and the use of brick were stipulated as a result of the recommendations contained in the Rebuilding Act of 1667. This provided stimulus for new styles in architecture, furniture, and decoration, as well as for all trades associated with the building and furnishings of new structures. St. Paul's Cathedral, located in London, is considered Christopher Wren's greatest masterpiece. When looking at this slide, keep in mind that during the early English Baroque period, we are still seeing characteristics reminiscent of the Italian Renaissance time period. Square's Court is a perfectly symmetrical building, 2 stories high with an attic in the roof. It is constructed of brick. It has a classical pediment and columned portico. This is Long Gallery, located in Sudbury Hall. Now take a look at the ceiling. This is where we first begin to see Baroque characteristics. The ceiling has sculptural motifs such as shells, curling flowers, foliage, and acanthus leaves. So we see the C curve, the S curve, all in regards to the ornamentation that's involved in the decoration of the ceiling. This slide is focusing on the Queen's Closet located in Ham House. Ham House is in Richmond, near London. This is one of the most perfectly preserved 17th century houses in Britain. So when we look at the Queen's Closet, we see that it has ornate gilt carving and walls that are hung with rich brocaded satin. Grinling Gibbons became particularly famous for his wood carvings of garlands, swags, and drop ornaments composed of natural objects realistically portrayed in high relief, minute detail, and with deep undercuts. The ornament was carved in fine-grained woods such as lime, box, and pine. It was carved, then gilded, and then nailed to the wood-paneled walls. The ornament was generally used as an over-mantel decoration or as a frame for portraits. The motifs produced included fruit, vegetables, game, fish, leaves, flowers, and other objects. Ornate, rich finishes were very popular during the English Baroque period. Gold and silver was used to embellish both wood and leather panels. The example in this slide is showing embossed leather, which has been embellished with a little bit of silver and also gold. In terms of wood, the practice of treating wood to look more than naturally elegant was typically Baroque. Several means were used to accomplish this. Graining, a painted simulation of another wood, was used as an economical means to imitate a more expensive wood. Closely related to graining is marbling, whereby a less expensive wood was painted to imitate marble. So remember, starting way back with the Italians, we talked about this idea of honesty of materials. So in the Baroque period, honesty of materials went out the window. If you could paint, if you could imitate a more expensive material to elevate your status or to elevate the aesthetic, they were all for. So keep this in mind as you look at the following slides. In terms of furniture, a lot of innovation took place during the English Baroque time period. This was a time period where the furniture forms or furniture pieces reflected the more relaxed social atmosphere of the day. One of the most characteristic features of English Baroque furniture and ornamentation is pierced carving. Pierced carving means that you create intricate patterns and designs by carving away wood sections, very similar to laser cutting. The result is this captivating interplay of light and shadow, with the negative spaces becoming as important as the carved elements. Pay attention to the following furniture slides. Can you identify the pierced carving? During the reign of Charles II, we see a lot of innovation with seating. One such innovation was the winged armchair. These chairs were richly upholstered in velvets or needlework. One feature that I'd like to point out is this notion of an H-shaped stretcher. So we see the stretcher right here taking on the form of the letter H. This crazy looking chair is one of the first recliners. It is known as the sleeping chair. And as you can see, the chair also features two levels of stretchers. We see a top stretcher in the front, we see a top stretcher in the back, and then we see the lower H stretcher. Notice by the end of the 1600s the incorporation of the barley twist. This tabletop is supported by barley turn legs with perimeter stretcher. After the death of Charles II, we have James II, who succeeded to the throne. He, however, was ousted because he attempted to restore the Church of Rome as the state church. James's daughter Mary and her husband William, Prince of Orange, were invited to rule as joint sovereigns. Prosperity, economy, and simplicity characterize their reign. Chairs of the William and Mary style were generally lighter in form than those in the Restoration style. Proportionately, the chair backs were taller and more narrow. Tables were among the most varied of forms in the late 17th century. Some were highly ornamental, while others were strictly functional. Legs, stretchers, feet, and ornamental detail followed the prevailing fashion. The desire for brilliance and extravagance was satisfied in part by a technique called japanning. This technique was used by the English craftsmen to imitate Oriental lacquer. On black or colored grounds, often red, chinoiserie designs were applied, and the term chinoiserie means decorative motifs based on Oriental designs. So during this time period, successful trading with the Far East and India encouraged an Oriental influence. As lacquered cabinets, tables, and small boxes made their way onto the continent, cabinet makers were quick to imitate the colors, patterns, and the high-glossed finishes. Since true Oriental lacquering processes were unknown to European cabinet makers, they improvised by painting finished cabinets, armoires, and chairs in dark green, crimson, or black. The piece was then decorated with either inlaid or painted chinoiserie motifs and then varnished. This technique was appropriately dubbed Japanning. The Teester bed was the focal point in important bedchambers. Therefore, the design and decoration of this kind of bed was of paramount significance. Attention was drawn to the bed for two primary reasons. First, its excessive height made it an imposing piece. Some were 14 feet tall. Second, lavish attention was focused on textiles with which it was treated. The importance attached to the drapery is evidenced by the proportionate expenditures for the various parts of the bed. One example, based on total cost of the bed, reveals that 88% was for upholstery, 9% for the feather finials, and 3% for the wood frame. Textiles were used for the cornice, teaster, valance, and drapery. Curtains were hung from rods using rings on all four sides. Placed in front of the hangings at the head of the bed was a highly ornate headboard, often of raised embroidery. The most prized finial treatments were those utilizing ostrich feathers. The following slides showcase the many decorative techniques and innovations attributed to the English. All of these techniques involve the use of wood. So pay attention and enjoy. These examples are absolutely gorgeous. Furnishings from this period are extremely rare and highly collectible, as in the case with this exceptionally fine William and Mary chest of drawers. Amazingly, after 300 years, it remains in fine condition. The fine workmanship of the geometric boxwood banding and the beautiful color and patina are just two of the qualities that distinguish this marvelous chest. Graduated drawers. the thoughtful use of contrasting boxwood and walnut veneers, the bold use of geometric patterns on the face and the top, and the excellent overall condition of the chest combined to place it among the finest pieces of the William and Mary period. I did find this piece on an auction site, and if you're interested, the piece went for $38,500. And I know each of you would probably take 2 or 3 of these chest of drawers. In summary, Baroque furniture has a timeless appeal that continues to captivate collectors and interior designers. Its bold, dramatic style adds a sense of history and luxury to contemporary spaces.